Hi and welcome to another live Q&A. Welcome to the Johnny Ross audio experience on the podcast as well. We are live streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn and YouTube. I've got Bobby Thandi with me today. How are you?
I'm very well, Johnny, and yourself?
Yeah, I am very good indeed. We're going to be talking about gaming. We're going to be talking about VR, AR, XR games, but also XR gaming. Interestingly, just in the green room just then, we were talking about how you could market a game. So if you have developed a game and you're looking to market it, I'm very interested in getting to understand how you market games. So that's something that we're going to get into. If you are watching live, then feel free to ask questions. I'm sure we'd be interested in taking them. So please do use the chat function. And if you're listening, thanks for being here, and please do enjoy. So, Bobby, tell me, you founded XR Games back in 2017. That's when you incorporated. I want to go right back. Why gaming? How did you get into gaming? And was it just to sort of fulfill a hobby, something that you were doing as a teenager?
Good question. Actually, the Commodore Amiga actually launched with the Batman pack. Excuse me, when I was 13 years old. And I came from a poor background. So I managed to persuade my parents to fork out a lot of money. And it came with the Commodore Amiga, the Batman pack, and one game. And I remember my dad specifically saying, "That's your lot. We can't afford to buy you any more games." So I played that game, and then I was like, what am I going to do now? I did the only thing I could do, which was figure out how to hack the games and make copies of the games and sell the copies to my friends. And what that meant is, after 6 months, a year of doing this, I'd got it to a stage where I was getting early access to games before they'd even be promoted, before they'd be marketed, and before they're even in the magazines. So what I found was great fun for myself was kind of having early access to these games and then deconstructing the games and figuring out what were the best selling points. And then I'd have to go and kind of present this and pitch it to my friends to encourage them to buy a game when they hadn't even heard of it on the market yet. But that was a lot of fun. I was kind of making a bit of money that was being reinvested to get more games. And my catalog of games was significantly increasing. So I kind of aligned my kind of passion with my income, which was fantastic at the time. That said, when I was a young teenager, I didn't have any friends in the industry. I didn't even know how to get in the industry. And I always kind of just deemed working in the games industry akin to wanting to become an actor or a sports star. It's just something so far-fetched, it just wasn't going to happen. Forever maintained my love of gaming and passion for gaming, but went to university, did a BA Honours Business Studies degree. I didn't really know what I wanted to do after university. I went into marketing and research and kind of found an affinity with kind of analyzing big data and writing code to do kind of conjoint analysis, max diff analysis, and helping clients kind of understand the different attributes of a new product and which attribute was most impactful to the customer and the impact it might have on price. So I did some really cool and brilliant jobs, but then I kind of moved from head of data analysis to kind of head of sales, because it was me who would have to go in, present to the clients and kind of sell them on our big data analysis tools. And then I also moved into a client management relationship as well. So I kind of had three pillars: coding, analysis, client management, and sales. And it just so happened that on my daughter's first birthday, she sat on my lap and I'm kind of speaking to her. She didn't understand what I'm saying. And I'm like, you know what? I want to give you the best life possible. And that means I need to get a higher paying job. And I also need to align my passion with my work, because my belief is when you do align your passion with your work, it sounds corny, but it generally feels like you're not actually getting up to go to work. You're getting up to do what you love doing. And I said that to my 1-year-old daughter, and as crazy as it sounds, I got 2 text messages within 10 minutes of saying that from 2 different friends inviting me to come and work with them. One was a job in the financial services industry, and the other one was a job in the games industry, working for a game studio. So you can imagine which one I took. So yeah, I was working for Dubit Limited in Leeds, 70-person game studio focused on making games for children and young adults, and went in as their head of business development. It's quite funny, actually, in the interview, they'd mentioned they'd tried to hire someone on a big 6-figure salary with great experience, but it hadn't quite worked out. So they wanted to kind of come to the other end of the spectrum and get someone with coding skills, sales skills, and client management skills, and try and train them up to become the BD person that they aspire to have. And unfortunately, it just went from strength to strength. I think the pivotal moment in my career, from transitioning from head of business development to a more wider role that encompassed different facets of game development, was when I'd spend maybe 1 to 2 years closing a deal. I remember closing the Dreamworks deal in particular, having closed it and trying to pass the executive producer at Dreamworks over to the production team. And he's like, no way, Bobby. It's like, we've been working on this deal for over 12 months. I've come to know you, come to like you. You're now going to be my executive producer, and you're going to make sure the project's delivered on time, on budget, and it's of a high standard. And that became the first one. And then that started happening more and more before the owners of Dubit, Ian Douthwaite and Matthew Warneford, had promoted me to be the VP of digital in charge of a team of 50. And that just kind of went from strength to strength.
Were they gutted when you left?
Good question. I actually got headhunted by EA to lead one of their studios, and I'd gone through this 6-month process, kind of meeting more and more senior managers, presenting a 90-day plan. And only once I'd received the offer from EA did I sit down with Ian and Matthew and say, look, you're my really good friends. I've really enjoyed this role, the opportunity you've afforded me. We were traveling all over the globe, working with some brilliant clients, making great games, and having an absolute blast. I was like, I don't want to leave. I genuinely don't. But look at this offer. It's a crazy offer on the table and life-changing for me and my family. But Ian and Matthew, very clever, very wise, and they knew I'd always wanted my own game studio, and I'd always thought I would do that after EA, because the experience I would have gained there would obviously help me kind of raise funding and kind of build the team. But they're like, let's fast track you. And rather than going to EA, here's 100K seed capital. You can hire your favorite team and we'll incubate you here at Dubit, and let's see where you can get to. So they provided a fantastic platform from which I could safely grow within the walls of Dubit until we were able to spread our wings and fly. And, here we are, we've raised VC funding. We've just recently released our 3rd title. We're at 30 plus employees and in this beautiful studio here as well. So fingers crossed we continue going from strength to strength.
Yeah, no, I mean it's pretty impressive stuff. That first deal must have been quite amazing with Dreamworks. How did that make you feel?
It was the first deal that I had done with a Hollywood film studio. So very exciting to work with big IP. You're on calls with Hollywood film execs, but because of the time zone difference, you're working crazy hours. But I never mind a trip to LA, that's for sure.
I mean, you've just mentioned that actually, and it's interesting. So is gaming? I'm trying to be careful what I say here, and not put the UK down too much. But for big gaming and big and being in the right places, have you got to work with someone like the States, or being UK alone is that ever going to achieve anything like what the States can achieve?
It depends on the type of game you're making. So the UK games industry is thriving. You've got Team 17 in Wakefield. We're based in Leeds. You've got Team 17 in Wakefield, with $1 billion market cap last time I looked. Sumo down in Sheffield, $600 million market cap when I last looked. 1,000 staff, as well as other huge studios in the UK. CodeSync up in Newcastle. Just thinking now of VR AR studios. Sprite over by Liverpool. There's lots of studios in the UK, lots of studios doing great work. And if you're an indie studio working on your own original IP, there's no need for you to kind of partner with US IP holders. But if you want to establish a relationship with PlayStation, for example, PlayStation have fantastic offices in London, so no need to go abroad.
Okay.
Maybe Microsoft and Oculus more so. XR Games' thesis has always been, we want to work with world famous IPs, because we believe by working with a world famous IP, the cachet that a Zombieland IP has helps elevate XR Games standing in the community.
Yeah.
And later down the line, we'll do our own original IP, which wouldn't involve as much travel.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can completely relate, and I'm sure a lot of people watching and listening can too. Doing something that you're passionate in is really important. I think not only is it more enjoyable, but I think you put more in, you get more out, so I completely get that. And in fact, I probably learned that lesson a bit too, quite late on. But
how do you mean?
Well, I think I was in a job that I wasn't passionate about for too long, it took me quite a little while to move on and find something that I was extremely passionate about.
Kudos to you for doing it. I always find it really interesting, especially for the people listening, is understanding what that trigger was. I mean, everyone has their own passions, but for me, getting married and then having a daughter who's 1 year old, and me saying, I want to give you I want the best life possible. I want a higher paying job. I was like, do that. And for me to have fun, it had to align with my passion. So that was my trick. We're very interested to understand what yours was.
Yeah, I think it was more about just sort of the next big step in my life. And there was, changing circumstances at home. And, it was the next big step that I wanted to make. And I don't regret the job I was in at all. I just, in hindsight, wish I'd moved sooner. Because you, as I said, if it's something that you're really passionate about, you get way more out of it. So, yeah.
Definitely. It's all too easy to get yourself comfortable, right? And it's like, I might not love my job, but I'm comfortable what I'm doing, and I've got a nice lifestyle. It takes a lot, I think, to kind of move into a different lane and go into the unknown, because it is scary. It can be nervous. It can be terrifying, but you start beginning to find your feet, and then you grow in confidence with each little win.
Totally. Whilst we're on this, I think it's probably a good time, because one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was you've got some really good values within your company,
Sure.
and those have been instilled early on, which helps you innovate and keep that close knit team. You say there's now 30 of you, which is fabulous. I think the values. Do you want to go through what they are?
For sure, we can. We did a big exercise amongst management and then the wider company itself. And what we wanted to kind of distill was, why did you come to work? And what is it that brings you joy at work? And then we kind of distilled it down to 6 different values, and we can kind of touch on some of them. So, for example, fun. You need to bring your passion for games, for the industry to work. And if you're not having fun at work, it's going to show in your work. So, when we hire people, for example, we kind of look at our 6 values. It's kind of fun, imagination, quality, inspiration, elevation, and trust. We can kind of touch on these in a moment. But when we are interviewing people, we're kind of grading is a strong word, but kind of making note of where they rank on these values, and are they passionate about the VR industry? Take, for example, Rosie Summers. She applied for an animation post at XR Games. And when her CV came in, it was like the most perfect CV in terms of not only does she love animation, but she's crazy passionate about VR. And she attends events, she does live painting in VR. She gets paid by the likes of BBC and Google and YouTube to go to events and talk about VR and perform in VR. And all her posts are about VR. And she says, when she's not working as an animator, she's spending her time in VR. And this is what was coming through in the CV. I was like, really? And then I started looking at her social media posts, and it was just phenomenal. She's got 10,000 followers on Twitter now, and her output of VR artwork just screams passion for the industry, screams passion for VR. And when you can hire people who are just this passionate about the industry, they're only going to be a huge asset to your company itself. And that was just VR. For her actual career, the chosen career path at XR Games, being an animator, we set her a test where she had to animate an old man walking with a walking stick, and she absolutely nailed it. And in the interview process, like, can you just unpack your process here? And by asking a simple question, you get to really understand how a creative thinks. And she's like, I tried to imagine what it was like for an old person to animate, but I couldn't get it quite right. Then I started watching videos of how an old man would walk with a walking stick. I couldn't really get into it. So, I decided to take off my socks and get some drawing pins and sellotape them pins to the skin up, and then put a sock back on, and then get a walking stick. And now I'd walk. And I knew I couldn't put any pressure on my foot because I'd get loads of drawing pins going into my foot. And then by embodying that experience and then filming it, then she knew how to animate the person. So, when we talk about fun and passion, it's really interesting to kind of ask deep questions to see how people think about stuff, how they approach problems. So, yeah, having these values, it was great to understand what motivates staff at work. And we can not only have that on our website, but also apply it for future hires.
Well, it would seem that CM, who's watching on LinkedIn right now, he's put, wow, Bobby, are you guys hiring? I'd love to work at a company like yours. So there we go.
Absolutely. Please go to xrgames.io. Our open positions are on there. But that's another interesting point, Johnny. I'm not sure what it is, but when we advertise, for example, for a junior game designer, we got over 950 applicants, which is crazy.
Wow.
We recently put out an advert for a chief operating officer and received over 140 applicants. Wow. What this means is when we're reviewing that number of CVs, and yes, someone sits there and reviews all the CVs, you're kind of looking at, did they get great grades? Did they win awards at university? Have they won awards since then? What do they do in addition to their current role? And when you've got over 900 people to choose from, the game designer that we did hire, and there's a blog series coming out about this shortly, it shows you what that process looked like in terms of identifying what are the key attributes we're interested in. But then not only do they have to be an A+ on game design, that the chosen candidate was also a writer. They could draw, they could animate, and they had this kind of all-rounded skill set, as well as thinking creatively, writing very clearly. But it just means it feels as though we can kind of hire from the best of the people that apply to us. But yes, it's a fascinating space to be in, that's for sure.
Well, that's amazing. The numbers.
I think you're frozen. Oh, you're back.
That's amazing. The numbers that you're talking about there. That's crazy. Very interesting indeed.
Definitely.
So you've had some. Having only been going for just a handful of years so far, you've got some great successes. There's the Zombieland versus Headshot Fever game, which was with Sony Pictures. This is with Oculus, is it?
So Zombieland VR, Headshot Fever. It's a game we've made in collaboration with our partner Sony Pictures.
Sony Pictures, sorry.
They obviously made the movie. They own the IP. In terms of distribution and the platforms it's on at the moment, yes, it's on the Oculus store, available to play via an Oculus Quest 1 headset, a Quest 2 headset, or a Rift headset, and it's going to be going multi-platform soon. Interestingly to note, we've got a big update landing tomorrow with more content, upgraded visuals, some more bug fixes. So very excited to see how the audience reacts to that tomorrow.
And the other one that you also got a deal on was Angry Birds, and that was for the PlayStation. Angry Birds Under Pressure VR for the PlayStation. That was before Zombieland, wasn't it?
That's correct. That was launched in August 2019. It was delivered on time, on budget, and to critical acclaim. And that was working with Rovio, who owned the IP, obviously, for Angry Birds, and Sony Pictures, who were making the movie. But no, it's a fantastic project for us to work. And, it's a multiplayer game. The reason we designed it to be multiplayer, a number of people felt when they were in a VR headset in a social setting, they'd put on the VR headset, and then everyone else became isolated to them. And and another problem I really wanted to solve for was when I was at home, my wife's playing Candy Crush, the eldest is playing Fortnite and the Nintendo Switch, the youngest are YouTube Kids, and I'm doing work emails on my phone. I was like, what the hell? We're all together in the same room, but we're actually alone together. So when thinking about the Angry Birds game we were going to make, I wanted it to be a cooperative game whereby we could all work together. So one person puts on the headset, and 3 other people can use the DualShock controllers and the TV screen. Now we're all together in the same experience. And because it's a cooperative game, we're all working towards the same goal. So it involves teamwork, it involves talking to each other and blaming each other when things go wrong. And the thing that brought me the greatest joy on that project was, regardless of where we played, and we were on tour with PlayStation in Montreal, in Los Angeles, in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and in Chile, we had thousands of people play the game, and by the second level, they would all be bursting out laughing, and seeing the game create laughter, create fun, and create moments where people can bond together was absolutely fantastic.
You were talking, sorry, I was talking earlier about the future of AR and VR and potentially XR being the combination of the two. You're a firm believer that this is only going to get bigger, and in fact you were saying that there's 10,000 staff at Facebook working on this.
Correct.
That's crazy. That's billions and billions of dollars, isn't it?
Absolutely. If we just wind back a little bit, every 15 years there's a new tech center. Went from mainframes to PC to web to smartphones. What's next? And the big tech firms are, as you say, spending billions, believing the next computing platform will be XR glasses. Matt Zuckerberg has been very passionate about it becoming the next computing platform. And that's why, it's widely reported 10,000 staff, a fifth of his entire organization is working on AR and VR. And that's why the Quest 2 is leading the charge. It's an all-in-one headset, inside-out tracking. It doesn't need a powerful computer to power it. There's no wires. It's, you're seconds away from a fantastic VR experience. So that's Facebook. Apple, again, thousands of staff. They've got a rumored Apple glasses that'll be coming out next year. And that's going to, I believe, help move the entire industry forward to go more mainstream. Microsoft, Google, Niantic, also big believers in AR. Snap, they've already released their AR spectacles. So, all the big tech firms, some have made announcements, some haven't, but they all seem to be betting big that it will be going mainstream, and it will become the next computing platform. The reason XR Games exists is because we also believe in that. So whether it's 5 or 6 or 7 years out, we definitely see us moving towards a future where it does become mainstream. And, the XR glasses should be coming down to a form factor this size. You can imagine it being in AR mode through the day, where you kind of got digital images overlaid you. So, we're talking right now. My eye and only I may see kind of above you your most recent LinkedIn post that could help get relevant, up-to-date contextual information to aid this conversation and make it more interesting, although it is very interesting already, Johnny. And then in the future, and then, you get home and you might want some downtime and play some games. You can imagine you press a button and it kind of goes into a VR mode. And that's the kind of future we're hoping for, and that's the kind of future the big tech firms are working towards.
I'm hopeful and imagining that you don't even need to press a button.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, that's a very good point, actually, because Facebook and Elon Musk are working on various neural interface mechanisms whereby you don't need controllers, you don't even need to move your hands. You'll just use your mind to make things happen in the virtual space, and that's a future that excites me very much.
And when you're developing a game, how much have you got to bear all this in mind to make it future-proof? or do you end up investing on a load of technology that actually can't be used in the game right now? I'm not sure. Maybe I'm off on a tangent here, but
no, it's a very good question. When we started thinking about Zombieland back in kind of October 2019, when we first started looking at the project, you're having to make very big decisions of when this game comes out, whether it's December 2020, which is what we originally thought it would be, but we got offered a good slot with Oculus in terms of promotion. That meant we kind of pushed the release out a little bit further. But you're having to make bets when you start a project in terms of what will be the most popular platform when the game comes out. You don't have all the information. You only have half the information that you'd like, and you're kind of placing a bet on which headset's going to be most popular in the future. Thankfully, we got that right in terms of the Oculus Quest 2 headset selling absolute gangbusters at the moment. But when we made that decision, only the Quest 1 had come out. But seeing the commitment Facebook is making to this industry makes it a safer bet. We are going multi-platform, so we'll be on iQIYI, we'll be on Pico, we'll be on Vive, we'll be on Windows Mixed Reality, we'll be on Valve Index, and all that's happening right now. But being a small indie studio, you can, I feel you can launch on one platform first and then do all the other platforms later on, whereas the bigger studios can just sim ship and be on every headset on day one. We're not quite at that stage, but look forward to being at that stage. And it's also worth noting, the PlayStation 5's come out. They've announced a PSVR 2 coming out, but it probably won't be till next year, Christmas. But again, you need to be aware of the cycles, the consoles and the headsets are coming out to help educate you on where you should place your bet.
You mentioned Windows mixed media just then. Where are Microsoft in all of this? Are they going to get left behind finally, or are they going to find a way back up?
I think they're too big to be left behind in some regards. So, for example, they have the HoloLens 2. It's a fantastic AR headset, but due to the expense, it's kind of primarily sold to enterprise clients. So, whether you're in the construction industry, you may be a surgeon, etc., and you need an overlay of the organ that you're kind of operating on. And so they are very far ahead in terms of AR headsets. In terms of VR, they've helped create VR headsets, and they kind of work with their partners. So, for example, they work with HP, and they've helped work with by partnering with HP. They've created the HP Reverb G2 headset, as well as a multitude of other headsets. And these headsets plug into your computer, probably a Microsoft computer, and you can access VR games that way. However, Microsoft also have a console called the Xbox. That console at the moment doesn't support VR. There's rumors in the future that it will, but at the moment they haven't created a VR headset that will plug in directly to the Xbox console, whereas PlayStation have. And when I last saw some reported figures, the PlayStation, the PSVR 1 headset had sold over 5 million units. So PlayStation have a significant jump on Xbox in this regard. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out in the coming years.
Yeah, well, that's the bit that surprises me, that they've not moved forward on Xbox, but I guess they will, yeah, watch this space, I guess. So I wanted to just talk to you about the marketing. How do you go about marketing a game? I mean, firstly, who plays your games? What's the demographic, and is there a particular age category? Is there a particular persona that fits really well? What's the
good question. In the first instance, it was predominantly early adopters buying the VR headsets and gamers. For myself, when I first tried a VR headset, it was like, holy smoke, I've now stepped into the experience. I'm no longer passively playing, looking on a screen. I can step into the experience, and it's a completely new medium and a new way to experience games. So in the first instance, it was early adopters and it was gamers. But what the Quest 2 headset is doing now, it's kind of becoming more mainstream. They're selling millions of units, so more and more people are buying it. But from the people in my circle, they are mainly gamers. And the type of game we've created in Zombieland VR is a light gun arcade shooter game, easy to pick up, but requires a high skill level to perform really well. We believe, that the audience does skew to males, who are able to afford a Quest 2 headset. But you know, the Quest 2 headset is you can be, as long as you're kind of 13 above, you can play it. That's the kind of age recommendation on it. But our game, because of the violence and the language, it's, you know, appropriate only for adults. So I believe it's adults skewing towards males. In terms of thinking about the marketing plan, you know, very good question. You know, first and foremost, you need to ensure you've made a great game that's fun, addictive, and people love playing. That's kind of 50% of the jigsaw puzzle resolved. And then the other 50% is reaching your intended target audience. And there's an array of ways you can do that. Securing feature placement on a platform such as the Oculus Store is, you know, first and foremost, by far the best way to get eyeballs onto your product. In addition to that, you can help support it in an array of ways, working with influencers. So, you know, we worked with a whole number of influencers who would get early access to the game, create content, and that would get launched, you know, a couple of days before. They would put it on their socials a couple of days before launch, and that got us millions and millions and millions of views. And then we'd also work with companies such as Keymailer, and they have a database of over 24,000 influencers, and we kind of provide the people interested with a key. So then you get loads of free influencers playing your game because they want to share content with their audience. That's another key asset. And then, you know, social media in terms of Facebook ads, Google ads, Instagram ads, YouTube ads, and ensuring it's very contextual in terms of, you know, someone who's got a VR headset, has a Quest 2, has bought games recently, and kind of identifying those kinds of people. But with you being in marketing yourself, it'd be great to get your thoughts in terms of what you find works well.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, what you're confirming to me is that even though it's a game, it still needs that entire mix of marketing, lots of different channels to, I guess, get the message across a number of times, because people typically need to see things 7 times before they make a purchase, and so it's just confirming that, really. And in fact, whilst you were just talking, then you talked about feature placement on the Oculus Store. Is there a whole algorithm to get higher in the store as well? And I guess that's based on number of purchases, reviews, downloads, etc.
As you say, there's an algorithm at work there, and you know, I'm unaware of how the algorithm works, but you know, the game's selling well, reviewing well. So, you know, I think we have like almost 280 plus user reviews, rating the game 4.4 out of 5. So that's fantastic to see. Yeah. I'm sure that's going to add weight when the algorithm comes across Zombieland to understand, you know, where it should be positioned in the store. Yeah. Where the game's selling well and whether you're supporting it. So, you know, tomorrow got the big update, new levels, new visual upgrades. That's all going to help improve our odds of being promoted on the store tomorrow.
And actually, if you've produced a game that's platform specific, for example, the Oculus, then I guess that's easier from a targeting point of view, especially for things like Facebook and Instagram. You could, I would have thought, target to people that are interested in the Oculus, or certainly have some connection with it. So I that becomes a bit more interesting in terms of being able to target. I think that's quite good.
100%. And, you know, even when you're targeting, you still, you know, you come up with some copy, you come up with some call to action and an image and a video. But that's one. Then, you know, you have to do A/B testing. So we'll have like maybe, you know, 20, 30 different ads with different call to actions, with different combinations. And it is just continually A/B testing to understand what works well and what drives the lowest cost per install. And even when you find that, you know, in a couple of days, it'll change. So you're constantly having to stay on top of it to understand what works best.
If you look at some of the popular games with the younger generation, and you look at Minecraft, and the name's completely gone out of my head for just a moment. It was totally Fortnite. Yeah. Or include Roblox in there as well. Why not? One of the things that I find is probably the biggest marketing channel is the influencers on YouTube. So the gamers on YouTube that are just, playing this 24/7 and have hundreds of thousands of followers, et cetera, et cetera. Has that been, is that a creme de la creme to try and get to that sort of level where you've got YouTube gamers playing the game and telling their fans this is what to do?
Yeah, 100%. My day is all about what the reporters wrote about the game and buying PlayStation magazines and seeing what the reviewers are saying. And that was kind of do or die for the game studio. And, those reporters, I'm sure they live very lavish lifestyles, getting invited out for fancy dinners and lunches, etc. But most definitely there's been a shift now to the content creators, the influencers. Yeah. They wield the power. And if you can get them on board and they're having fun with your game, that'll be evidence in the video that they make. And then hopefully, their audience will resonate with that, watch their content, and then buy your game.
What's the future for XR Games? What's the next game that you're working on? And is it, is it going to be? Are you going to be able to play it on your glasses?
Good questions. Unfortunately, I've got to stay stum about that. But when we're in a position to announce, 100%, we're looking forward to showcasing to the world what we're working on.
Is there a timeline? Without, are we talking months, years? Are we talking?
It'll take a minute, that's for sure. But we will have games coming out this year and next year.
Oh wow! Okay.
So following the success of Zombieland, it's been fantastic to see the number of work for hire opportunities increase. We're kind of signing more projects. More investors are interested in investing in XR games. The number of people applying for roles is increasing. Everything's just kind of leveling up. The number of projects, the budget of the projects, the investment deals. Exciting times.
I mean, we can't miss this bit because I noted that the company is called XR Games. What you've told me is that whether the term XR was out prior or during the naming of the company, it wasn't really very big, but actually it's now an emerging term. So you're sort of going from VR, AR to XR gaming. So, kudos to you for naming a company on a term that was that's emerged and becomes very handy when someone's Googling XR games.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant.
Thank you. And, I do have to allow, Lady Luck to play her magic as well, in the sense that when we were thinking about the name of the game, the name of the studio, I wanted something very clear. So you're on the phone and it'd be like XR Games, and hopefully they just get it straight away and it'll be easy to remember. But when we were kind of getting down to 2 letters, what should those 2 letters be? We went through an array of different options, and then we kind of settled on extended reality. We felt like VR, AR was an extension of your actual reality, and that's where we kind of came to an X and an R. But then when we were designing the logo, well, actually the V and the A kind of brought together, looks like this. As this is like, it fits really well. But it was only after we'd named the company XR Games did the VR industry, AR industry begin to coin the phrase XR, and did that kind of become widely accepted. So feel very fortunate that happened, and yes, I'm sure it'll help our SEO ranking, that's for sure.
Excellent. Brilliant, fascinating conversation. Bobby, if people wanted to contact you, there's obviously the website which you mentioned. Just remind me the website.
Sure. www.xrgames.io.
And whereabouts do you personally hang out online the most? On social media? Are you on any of them?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Bobby Thandi, BOBBY Instagram at Bobby Thandi, and LinkedIn. If you search for Bobby Thandi XR Games, you'll see me on there as well. Feel free to reach out and connect. Absolutely.
Brilliant. Fantastic. I've really enjoyed this. You've really opened my mind up in the whole VR and AR gaming world. And very interesting on the marketing side as well. Thanks so much for being involved in this. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you are interested in working for Bobby, then go to his website. Bobby, what else? If people are listening or watching right now, what could they do for you? I guess it's go and buy the game.
Yes, that'd be fantastic. If you have a Quest 2 headset, head to the Oculus store and purchase Zombieland VR. That'd be brilliant. And if you're watching and you're keen to get into the industry, when we receive applicants and we find the CVs that we've identified and we think look promising, we're going to send them a test. So, always be working on your portfolio, your game, your assets, and keep building up that portfolio, because when you get to an interview, we place a very strong emphasis on your past work and what that looks like, what's the quality like. So, that'd be the one piece of advice if you are out there and you're looking to get into the industry.
Brilliant. Thanks once again. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we will see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.